And Peggy MacDonald, please, from London, followed by Jody. Thank you.
In 1989, the House of Commons unanimously resolved to seek to achieve the goal of eliminating poverty among Canadian children by the year 2000. Now, statistics currently available show that 1 million children, or almost 1 in 9, still live in poverty in Canada. And this figure doesn't include the shameful situation of First Nations communities, where 1 in every 4 children is growing up in poverty. And as educators, of course, we clearly see that this poverty negatively affects children's health, educational success, and simply their overall happiness, their well-being. Are each of the parties prepared to adopt recommendations made by a potential House of Commons committee to immediately commit to an action plan to reduce poverty in this country? So I'd like to hear about an action plan to reduce poverty.
Thank you. And Mr. Ray, if you'd like to begin, please.
Well, I think the resolution was great, but the trouble is that it wasn't it didn't have a program or a plan attached to it. And the other problem, of course, is that, as I recall, there was a big recession started in 1990, which then drove what governments were able to do over the better part of a decade. And we fell way behind. You have to have a plan that is sustainable through good times and bad, and the plan does have to deal with poverty, and it does have to deal with inequality. Part of the problem is that we have not yet sufficiently agreed as a political society that we actually want to do something about this. We did it for seniors for a period of time. With the GIS and other measures that are taken in terms of affordable housing, other things, we've actually managed to reduce quite substantially, all governments working provincially, federally, poverty among seniors. We have not addressed it among young people, among kids and families, and we certainly haven't addressed it among Aboriginal people. And I just want to say on that subject, I really believe this is the great challenge of our country that we have not faced up to and that we have to face up to. It is the civil rights issue of our time, right across the country. Whether you're talking about crime, whether you're talking about housing, talking about education, talking about health care, everything you're talking about, we are not doing justice, and we are not seeing justice for the First Nations peoples of Canada. It's something we really have to work on.
And Ms. Harrison, would you like to go next? Mrs. Harrison. Mrs. Harrison.
Yeah. My husband's in the back. Gotta say Mrs. This is an issue that I care extremely about. I was 6 in 1989, and that was really the resolution that got me interested. I thought, here we go, we've got a goal, let's go for it. It's the same level it was when I was 6. And I'm absolutely determined that when my child is 6, when I have that child, it will not be the same. And the problem is that there was no accountability framework. There was no timelines. There was no targets. There was no, any time to check and see if that plan was still in check, and do we need to make it flexible. That's what we need, and that's what our plan is, the plan that I advocated before becoming a politician. We need to have a poverty elimination commissioner, a bureaucrat that checks in on the government, no matter what party is in that government, and says, you haven't met your targets and timelines. Tell me why. Your plan's not working. We have to change it. Do it now. We don't have that currently. We need to invest in affordable housing, universal childcare. We need to invest in programs that helps our First Nations get up to that. A lot of people say, I don't see any poverty in my backyard. Go to a reserve. Go and see what those kids have to deal with on a daily basis. It's abject poverty, and it is absolutely unacceptable. We have the Kelowna Accord. Nobody brought that up in the leaders' debate whatsoever, and it's an absolute shame. Every child in this country matters regardless of their background, and we need to all commit and all be engaged in solving that for the long term.
Thank you. And Mr. Dykstra and Ms. Nash, please, after that.
Something it's on the Aboriginal issue, I guess listening to what Bob just said about the investments that governments have made over the years, and we've done the same over the last 5 years, and we still long and search for the types of improvements for Aboriginal children that we all want. I think it crosses all political barriers, and partisan barriers. And I think of the apology that was offered up to all Aboriginals on the residential schools question and issue. And to me, that was another opportunity for us to at least begin the healing. And I think, you know, I think we did. I think we've begun that process. I don't think it's going to be something that gets answered over the next year or 2 or 5, but I do think it's actually, it's formulating and it's starting. And when I think about, you know, Bob also said something in his opening about what the responsibilities of an MP are. And I remember my first meeting that I had, literally in my constituency office in 2006, ended up being meeting after meeting with youth homeless organizations. And I couldn't figure out why in Niagara we had 13 or 14 of these organizations. And I just invited them all into my office for a meeting, and I was amazed to find out that they didn't actually know each other. And you know, that one meeting actually turned into a youth homeless organization, strategic organization that is now run by the region of Niagara, and it actually has a strategy, an output, and measured outcomes. So, you know, sometimes it isn't just everything that happens in Ottawa that we as MPs should be involved in. I truly believe that some of the stuff starts right back at home in our own communities.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Let me just ask, how many of you here in your schools have breakfast programs for kids? That's pretty amazing, and I think that says a lot. I have been to some of the breakfast programs in our community, and I completely agree that the First Nations poverty issue is pressing, and it's a very growing population. And but we also have poverty right across our country, and we don't have to travel far, is what I'm saying. Campaign 2000, which sprung from the motion that Ed Broadbent had passed unanimously in the House of Commons, recommends action now, and has written positively. I know about a number of Liberal initiatives in the Liberal platform, and about a number of initiatives that we have taken in the NDP. Things like reintroducing a national housing strategy. We're one of the few countries in the world, developed countries, that doesn't have a national housing strategy. We need to put it in law. We need to attach dollars to it, along with things like childcare. We need to have a law. We need to attach dollars to these things. But I just want to add, there are provinces like Quebec and Newfoundland that have anti-poverty strategies with goals and timetables attached. I think we need to do that as a country and marshal the resources to make that happen.
Thank you. A moderator's prerogative just to ask everybody, and particularly those on the panel, these questions have been so fantastic and the answers so thorough that we're going to run about 10 minutes late. Is that okay with everybody? Okay, because if not, I was going to tighten the noose even more on the response time. Okay, great, thank you.